The story begins with a special FBI agent, John, who comes to a magnificent museum in Rome. He got the news that the world's biggest thief, Nolan Booth, is about to commit a big theft. His target was an expensive gold egg. John explained to the director of the museum again and again, but the director had so much faith in his security that he ignored the agent's words. But John was not going to stop. He continued his checking, and then he revealed a secret that blew everyone's minds. He immediately recognized that the egg in front of him was not real, but fake, meaning the real egg has already been stolen. To confirm, John poured soda on the egg. Then the egg started melting. And at the same time, the alarm went off. Everyone started running around the museum, and Nolan was there. When the alarm went off, every entry point in the museum started closing, and then Nolan started running. John immediately understood that the real thief was there. Then he followed Nolan. Nolan continued to move forward, leaving the guards behind with his amazing skills. And John also started running after him at every step. For a moment, he stopped Nolan, but Nolan was very clever. He confused the agent. And then he made a risky stunt, jumped into the pipe and went the other way. But John did not give up. He jumped down a ladder and fell in front of Nolan. But even there, Nolan escaped from him and ran into the historical alleys of Rome. Even then, John kept following Nolan. But in the end, Nolan managed to get out of there smartly. A few hours later, within about 56 hours, Nolan was celebrating his victory. One hand was holding alcohol and the other was holding an egg. He thought that he was the world's most cunning thief. But his happiness was not going to last long, because John was already sitting at his house with his entire team. Now there was no way to escape from Nolan. John immediately arrested Nolan. Nolan was surprised, and he did not understand how John found his secret house. John replied, "There is no one else to open your secret but Bishop. Bishop is the world's #1 most wanted thief, and Nolan has always tried to take his place." The stolen egg was now being sent to Interpol's custody. But during the impression, a shocking twist came. An undercover agent changed the real egg back to a fake one, and that agent was none other than Bishop himself. The next day, the difficulties for John increased, and he was accused of helping thieves. Evidence was also found. A Swiss account named after him, which had $8 million in it. The honor earned from years of hard work was found in the dust in a moment. The story becomes even more interesting from here. John was arrested and sent to the snow-covered mountains of Russia in a maximum security jail, and his cell partner was none other than Nolan Booth. Now both had no option, so both had to join hands with each other. Sitting in this cold jail, Nolan slowly began to understand the whole situation. The real mastermind behind both's arrest was none other than Bishop, a cunning thief, which no one has ever been able to catch. Nolan said that it's not just about one egg. This egg is the key to a big reward. An Egyptian billionaire has promised to bring him all 3 eggs before his daughter's wedding. He will get a reward of $300 million. 2 eggs have been found so far. But the 3rd one is still a secret. That's why Nolan was looking for these eggs. But with John's arrival, his whole plan was ruined. Now both realized that Bishop was also behind these eggs. He had set everything up so that no one could steal his egg and couldn't find his secret. Meanwhile, guards caught John and Nolan and presented them to the jail warden. And as soon as they saw inside, both lost their minds. Bishop himself was standing there, wearing a jail officer's uniform without any fear. He gave Nolan an offer and said, "I already have an egg. I have made the 2nd plan. If you help me find the 3rd egg, then 10% of the reward will be yours." Nolan made fun of that offer and immediately refused. Bishop was completely calm about it, and before leaving, he said only one thing: "I will always be 2 steps ahead of you." And then he left. John started scolding Nolan in anger and said, "Dude, it was a perfect chance to get out of jail, and you ruined it yourself." But still, he made Nolan understand and said, "If we both get together, it won't be too difficult to run away from here." John's plan was clear. Stop Bishop, take back the eggs, and regain his lost honor. Nolan first laughed at what John said, but later he agreed. And his own calculation was running in his mind. If Bishop is caught and he is saved, then he will be the world's #1 thief. Both made a plan to get out of jail, and the first step was in the dining hall. There, Nolan made his move. He shouted in front of everyone that John is an undercover FBI agent. As soon as he heard this, a big and dangerous prisoner got angry, and he immediately attacked John. There was a commotion in the jail. To control the situation, all the guards ran out. Nolan and John pulled both the guards and took them out. In anger, John threatens him and says, "Don't do this again!" But Nolan says with a smile, "This was all part of my plan." He said, he has stolen a key card in the middle of the commotion, and that was the most important thing for him to get out. Seeing the key card, John's anger subsided, and after a while, during the conversation, Nolan shares his past, says, My father was a police officer, but he never praised me. I always wanted his attention. Then I thought, the police pay the most attention to the thief. That's why I became a thief. This open conversation made a little emotional connection between John and Nolan. Now both started working on the next plan by forming a team. First of all, they had to make a temporary bomb. By mixing soap, toothpaste, and nitric acid, they set a small blast. As soon as the explosion happened, there was a commotion in the entire jail. The guards' attention was lost and both got a chance to escape. Next plan. A stone wall had to be slowly loosened. As soon as they got a chance, they moved the stone and it became a way out. Both quickly started going to the high wall covered with jail snow. On the way, Nolan was about to slip and fall. That's when John grabbed his hand. As soon as they reached the helicopter landing point, a guard was lost in his phone. Putin's photo and Russian music. He didn't even know that the prisoners had gone in front of his eyes. Then John immediately made the guard unconscious. Nolan quickly got on the helicopter while John was fighting the guards running from behind. That's when a guard fired a rocket launcher and the rocket hit the bridge where John was. The whole bridge flew, but John escaped and reached the other side. The helicopter started shaking violently with the blast. Nolan could have flown alone, but he refused to leave his friend behind. He turned the helicopter's minigun around and shot the guards. John took a chance and jumped on the helicopter. That's when another missile came from the sky. But John immediately showed his cleverness. He opened the second door of the helicopter. The missile hit a mountain from the inside of the helicopter and exploded. After this trick, he took the helicopter and left immediately. But somewhere far away, Bishop was watching the whole scene very calmly. He used another computer from London and sent a secret message to Interpol. It said John and Nolan escaped from Russia's jail. Bishop, with his clever smile, started his next plan. But Nolan and John were not far behind. They met Nolan's old trusted friend, Tambu, who had brought a new plane for them. Nolan's sources had captured the location of the second egg. He was with a weapons smuggler in Spain, and he had found the exact address of his house. The plan was simple: steal the egg by entering the house. But the work was not that easy. The house was tightly secured like a fort. Guards were standing at every small distance, and about 90 cameras were covering every corner, and the egg was kept in a special safe. Despite all this, Nolan and John set a plan. They made a deep fake video that could confuse everyone. Along with that, they prepared another trick plan, grabbing the smuggler's phone and taking out his password so that the process of stealing the egg becomes even smoother. Now the tension was maximum and high risk. That was when their strategy and timing was going to be perfect. In Spain, that weapons smuggler was organizing a grand party at his house. John wore the costume of a rich guest and joined the party, while Nolan was distributing drinks as a waiter. John noticed. Bishop was also at the party. That's when they met. And Bishop smiled a little. Then she left. But John held Bishop's hand and started dancing with him. Seeing him, the weapon smuggler came to him and asked Bishop to dance with him. And she started dancing with him. That's when John secretly stole his phone. Both didn't know that Interpol's agent Daz was also secretly watching everyone at the party. Nolan secretly spilled wine on John, which ruined John's clothes. Both made an excuse to go to the washroom and hacked the phone and took out the password. The guards had only 45 seconds to change their duties, which they used to reach the vault. There was a thick titanium door in front of the vault, but their deep fake trick worked, and the door opened. Inside, between rare and precious artifacts, there was another golden egg. Both danced happily, but then the alarm went off. The guards became active, and Agent Daz took a gun and stood on top of them. John showed a fast reaction, hit his hand on the gun, and closed the door of the vault so that he could get some time. That's when Bishop came from the dark and said I was already in the vault. Now Bishop on one side, and John and Nolan on the other. A fight started between the three in a small space. John and Nolan tried to defeat him together, but Bishop backed them up with his smart moves. At the same time, the dealer entered the vault, and Nolan said, "This is all done by this girl." That's when the dealer said, "Bishop and I planned all this together." Nolan and John were in shock, and they were caught quickly. The next day, when the two came to their senses, they saw that they were trapped in the basement of the smuggler. The dealer asked them, "Where is the third egg?" Nolan immediately made a story and said, "The egg is hidden somewhere in Egypt," and it was all a lie. The dealer calmed down for a while, but that's when Bishop came up with a clever plan. He gave the dealer a drink, which already had sleeping pills in it. For the sake of celebration, the dealer drank it and suddenly fell down. That's when Bishop took another egg from the vault with his smile and left John and Nolan there so that they can face the results of their actions. After a while, the dealer came to his senses and started firing bullets at both of them in anger. One bullet cut the ropes of John and Nolan. As soon as they were freed, both of them sneaked out of there. But as soon as they came out, there was an open arena of bull ring in front of them. Because of the strong sunlight, their eyes closed for a while, And then they saw a huge crowd was excited with applause. That's when a big and angry bull ran towards them. Even his horns were shining. Nolan picked up his hand in fear. The crowd thought that he was fighting the bull. Their energy increased even more. Even then, the bull attacked John, and John fell down. With difficulty, Nolan and John started running away from there, and got tired and climbed the wall of the bull ring. Somehow, both of them sneaked out of the crowd. That night, when everything calmed down, John opened his heart for the first time. How his father was a notorious thief and left him behind. Because of this betrayal, John joined the police and started hating thieves like his father. Nolan was listening carefully and was able to feel his pain. Then Nolan shared his secret and said, "Where is the third egg?" The story began after World War II. A German officer from Argentina ran away with a suitcase, which had a treasure and a special watch. In this watch, the location code of the third egg was hidden. Nolan's father, who was an expert treasure hunter, found that watch years later. Nolan connected the clues for years and solved the last piece today. Now getting ready, John and Nolan left for the jungle. After passing through the dense jungle and dangerous path, they reached the old bunker. That's when John opened the door with his powerful skill. And as soon as both went inside, the light of the bunker was on. It felt like time had stopped. Across a strong steel door, they found a lost treasure, the sparkling treasure of the Nazi era. And in the middle, the third egg of Cleopatra, which was shining in the light. But their happiness didn't last long. As soon as they were about to take the third egg, the bishop entered. Both of their calm faces came down, and the bishop said that she was following them from the beginning. After that, Agent Das entered the bunker with her team. The small bunker now turned into a small battlefield. Bullets were fired from all three sides and were colliding with steel walls. Everyone had only one goal, that golden egg. In this chaos, John, Nolan, and the bishop saw the opportunity and entered an old car and started running fast. But the road suddenly ended, and the car fell from a high waterfall and fell into the river. Agent Das saw everything from above, but couldn't do anything. That's when Nolan came out of the water with the egg. But when he found out that John was missing to find his friend, he immediately left the egg and went back into the water. But John had already come out, before Nolan. Then John tells Nolan to come out of the water. They were having fun. That's when the bishop came out of the water. John sees him and goes to arrest him. But then a great twist comes in the story. John and the bishop were already a team, and were deceiving Nolan together. Only Nolan knew all the work and planning, and that third egg location too. Both play such a perfect role that Nolan doesn't understand anything. Bishop and John tie Nolan to a tree and leave him. Nolan keeps watching. Still, they take all three eggs and get lost in the jungle. This moment hurts Nolan's heart, but he decides that he will not leave them. A few days later, there was a grand celebration in Egypt. There was a wedding of the billionaire's daughter, when all three eggs were brought in front of the public. That's when Agent Das and the Interpol team raided. They broke the door and went inside, and took the whole party under their control. The music also stopped. All the guests were in shock. Then Interpol seized all three eggs. They handcuffed the billionaire and his gang and took them away. In the meantime, John and Bishop were looking at everything from above and smiling. Soon, they both secretly left there, because they had 300 million secured. Now there was no tension. About 6 months later, in the calm Sea of Italy, John and Bishop were relaxing on a luxury yacht. That's when Nolan enters and surprises them. He climbed on the deck smiling, and tracked all their hidden accounts with a tablet, and sent the details to Interpol. John and Bishop were in shock. That's when their accounts froze, and the money disappeared. Nolan jokes and says, "I am the biggest thief in the world," but then he gets serious, and says that he has a new heist plan. But he can't do the mission alone, he needs both. John immediately refuses and says, "We won't work with you." That's when Bishop explains to John that he doesn't have the money yet, and says yes to Nolan. Because there was no choice but to listen to Nolan, that's when the three of them go out to work according to a team. That's where the story ends. If you liked the video, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next video.